Pastor Ed here with daily devotions for Wednesday, January the 10th, 2024. We're looking at those first 20 verses of Mark 1 this week, kind of building on or expanding on the gospel reading from this past Sunday. And so today we're going to look at verses 9, 10, and 11. We heard about the ministry of John the Baptist and his preaching out in the wilderness and preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. And now we have, at least according in Mark's version, a very short version compared to Matthew and Luke, as I pointed out on Sunday, Mark's description of Jesus' baptism. Again, beginning in the 9th verse. In those days, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And just as he was coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart, and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased." Mentioned Charlie Brown yesterday, talking about how, about changing, and doesn't like the idea that he would have to change, or at least in one of the cartoons. Somebody at one point years ago, I had the book, I don't know if I have it anymore, that wrote a book, The Gospel According to Peanuts. One pastor came up with sort of a different take on that, or a similar to take on that, and talked about the gospel according to Charlie Brown. His name is Mark Eberly. This was what Pastor Eberly writes. Charlie Brown can't catch a break. He's the stereotypical American loser. Whenever he tries to kick the football that Lucy is holding, every time she pulls it away at the last second, and he misses it, flying through the air to land flat on his back. His baseball team has never won a game, although one time they did score a run. He's prematurely bald, or premature balding, can never get anything right. For Halloween, he tried to make himself the easiest costume ever, a ghost, but somehow he cut a gazillion holes in it instead of the 2 holes that he needed for eyes. And as a result, he receives rocks instead of candy. For Christmas, he's charged with getting a Christmas tree, but gets something that's little more than a twig. Old Chuck felt sorry for that little thing because no one else wanted it, thought the tree was a little like himself. And the result was that everybody was angry with him and accused him of sabotaging Christmas. Again, Charlie Brown is a loser. No one wants to be like Charlie Brown. No one idolizes Charlie Brown. No one looks up to Charlie Brown. We might feel sorry for Charlie Brown, but deep down inside, we are relieved that we are not as bad. He is a loser with a capital L. Again, Charlie Brown is a loser. But here is where the gospel, especially the Christmas message, says Pastor Eberly, shines through. The good news is that the good news is for losers. We heard how Jesus was born into a family of losers, peasants, nobodies. We were introduced to how his birth was announced to those loser shepherds. When he began his ministry, he taught and healed the losers of his day. Jesus said that he came not for the healthy and the well-off, those who were self-sufficient, who had plenty of blessings heaped on themselves in their lives, but he had come instead for the sick, the weary, the broken, the broken-hearted, and the cast-offs. He came for the people who, I guess the simplest way to put it is, needed him the most. And he just didn't come for us. He came to be one of us. It's Matthew's gospel, of course, that says that he will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. And there's a wonderful story. I've told it before. I can't resist telling it every time I have the opportunity. There's different versions of it. I kind of like Tony Campolo's version of it. He writes, if you go to Hawaii and ask around, you're likely to hear the story of the priest who was sent to minister to the lepers who lived on an isolated island in the Hawaiian chain. His name was Father Damien, by the way, and the island was Molokai. The entire island had been set aside as a leper colony, and this priest had gone there to do his best to minister to the scorned and sickly people who lived there. For years, he reached out to them as best he knew how to share with them the love of Christ, but he never connected with the people in a way that led them to respond to his ministry. After a long but unsuccessful period of pastoring, he decided to give up. He sent word to the people on Oahu to send a boat to take him away from the colony and to send someone else to take his place. Well, on the Sunday morning when his boat was scheduled to arrive, as the priest stood waiting on the dock, he happened to look down at his hands and he noticed several white spots. He suddenly realized that he himself had become a leper. He wouldn't be able to take the boat back to Oahu, for now he belonged to the colony. He left the dock and he slowly walked up the hill toward the little church that he had tried to serve so faithfully. And when he arrived at the church some 2 hours later, he was amazed to find that for the first time, the church was filled with people. They had come to hear their priest. He was no longer an outsider. He had become one of them. And the priest stayed on to minister to lepers for the rest of his life, and he touched thousands with Christ's love in those years that followed. That's what Jesus did. In his baptism, he didn't need to be baptized for the reason that the rest of the people were being baptized by John, or that the element or the degree to which we need to be baptized today because of our the sin in our lives. Jesus had no sin. He didn't need to do that. But when he stepped into those waters to be baptized by John, he identified with all those others who were being baptized there in the River Jordan, with all those who've been baptized ever since. He became literally one of us. And that's what his life, his mission was all about, to become one of us, so that ultimately, through his life, death, and resurrection, he might share his life with us. Well, we'll continue tomorrow in talking about Mark 1, and we'll touch on Jesus' baptism. Till then, take care. Bye. Jesus' temptation. My mistake. Jesus' temptation is the theme for tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.